This is Radio Romania International. You are listening to our one-hour broadcast in English for listeners in North America, the East Coast. We can also be heard on the internet at www.rri.ro, Channel 1. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms. Our programs are also available on TuneIn, Radio Romania International 1. We wish you good reception conditions.
Hello, I'm Ana Maria Popescu with the news. First, the headlines. Romania's Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu and the representatives of farmers and carriers have reached an agreement ending the recent protests. The U.S. hit targets in Iraq and Syria run by Iran-controlled groups in response to the recent drone attack on a military base in Jordan. And healthcare units are taking additional measures after a state of epidemiological alert was declared in Romania. The Prime Minister of Romania, Marcel Ciolacu, and the representatives of farmers and carriers in Romania Friday reached an agreement ending the recent protests. On Monday, the Prime Minister's office will set up an inter-ministry committee tasked with identifying the best solutions for the protesters' demands. Farmers and carriers in Romania protested for 3 weeks against high business costs, low prices for produce, the import of cheap foodstuffs from Ukraine, and the constraints introduced by the European Union as part of its climate change action. A ceremony commemorating the prominent politician Iuliu Maniu, a former Prime Minister of Romania and leader of the National Christian Democratic Party, was held on Saturday at the Memorial for the Victims of Communism in Sighetul Marmației in the northwest. Maniu died on the night of February the 4th, 1953 in the political prison in Sighet, where he was serving a life sentence for high treason pronounced by the communist regime. His name was cleared after a Supreme Court ruling in 1998, and a monument was erected in his honor in the Revolution Square in Bucharest. Chișinău extended an entry ban against the leader of the Romanian Nationalist Party, AUR, George Simion, by another 5 years. Under Moldova's legislation, foreigners may be declared undesirables if they have or if there are strong reasons to believe they intend to conduct activities likely to endanger the country's national security or public order. According to the Republic of Moldova, the Romanian authorities have been notified in this respect, and George Simion challenged the decision in court. The AUR leader was expelled from Moldova in 2018 with an entry ban in place for a period of 5 years. Trade unions in the healthcare sector have new talks scheduled next week with the Romanian authorities in the context of the recent protests. The vice president of the Ambulanța Trade Union Federation, Maghiari Arpad, had a meeting on Friday with the healthcare minister, Alexandru Rafila, but failed to reach an agreement on salaries, equipment, and the personnel shortage in the system. Arpad voiced optimism with respect to a 20% pay raise deal, but said he was not sure the measure would cover all healthcare personnel and whether it would be implemented in full or in several installments. He said the talks also concerned the procurement of ambulance vehicles, office revamping, and changes in the legislation. Trade unions in healthcare initiated nationwide protests in November 2022, but suspended them until after next week's meeting with Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu. Talks will also be held in the coming days with the Sanitas Trade Union Federation, which has its own salary demands for several categories of healthcare personnel. Healthcare units in Romania are implementing additional measures after a state of epidemiological alert was declared due to the growing number of respiratory infections and flu cases. Special attention is given to the health of hospital personnel and to the protection equipment, and visiting hours have been reduced. Visitor access is denied in ICUs, neonatology and pediatrics departments, coronary care units, oncology and hematology units, and in infectious disease units. In other hospital departments, no more than 2 visitors will be allowed at the same time in a room, and individual protection equipment will be compulsory. The United States conducted scores of air raids against targets operated by Iran-controlled groups in Iraq and Syria. The Pentagon said the raids were a response to the recent drone attack by Iran-supported fighters, which killed 3 U.S. troops at a military base in Jordan, the BBC reports. Taking part in Friday's raids were B-1 long-range bombers flying out of the U.S. Iran condemned the strikes, claiming they violated the sovereignty of Syria and Iraq, France Press reports. In Baghdad, a government spokesperson announced the U.S. strikes in western Iraq killed at least 16 people, including civilians. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Secretary Antony Blinken will travel to Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Qatar, Israel, and the West Bank between February the 4th and the 8th, primarily to reach a deal securing the freeing of all the Israeli hostages kept in Gaza following the Hamas terror attack of October the 7th. And that was the news on Radio Romania International.